so much to do and so little time. I'm going to share with you 5 quick tips on how to make sure you always hit your deadlines and how to deal with it when you've got a particularly difficult task. Let's get to it. Hey there and welcome back to my channel. My name's Eva and I'm a career coach and customer success director, and I have never missed a deadline. And while you might put that down to conscientiousness, I believe there's magic in the method. And there are certain things that I've followed, a system since I was very young, that I know not all people do, that have helped make sure that I always deliver the work I say I'm going to deliver on time. So I'm going to share these 5 quick tips with you, and I should say I have come dangerously close to missing a really important deadline, and that was submitting my final year dissertation. It was a 20,000 word research project in biomedical science, and I started that project 2 days before it was due and still managed to get it done. So I'm going to share with you how to also tackle a task that might seem so monumental and so difficult to just get cracking on. Tip number 1, start with the structure. Whenever I receive a request or I have a project that I'm going to be working on, I start by outlining the different sections that are going to go into that final work. So let's say I'm making a video or a PowerPoint presentation, I'll grab a pen and paper or I'll work directly on the slides and I'll title each section with what I want it to include. Now, doing this achieves a couple of things. First of all, I'm making the plan while the request is still fresh in my mind. So if someone has asked you to do something, you're not going to wait 3 weeks before you start doing anything on that project, because you'll likely forget what it is they asked you for and you won't have that same context as soon as the request comes in. It doesn't take a huge amount of time to do an outline, but it makes sure that you can stay focused on the initial ask. Another way that this helps is that once you've done the outline, you can just leave it. You don't have to start and finish the task right away. But there's this magical thing that happens that because the outline and the structure is there, your mind is just working in the background and you might get some great ideas that you haven't thought about before just by having that structure there. So start off by outlining what will the end project look like, even if you don't know what some of those key points are going to be. It might flag that you need to pull someone else in on the project, and then you know to do that in advance. So probably the most helpful tip, which is this first one, is to give yourself an outline before you start working on a project. Tip number 2, set an end date before the actual end date, and pull someone in to keep you accountable. So let's say you've got a presentation that you've got to give to your team next Friday. By next Wednesday, book in a meeting with either your manager or someone else from another team and tell them that you'd love to walk them through the presentation before you give it to the team. We can all be so good at procrastinating, but once you've set the date and someone else is expecting something from you, then we feel that pressure. Accountability is huge to helping us stick to those deadlines, so pull someone in to give you a hand. They can also help to flag things that you could have improved in your presentation, and it will make sure that you absolutely hit that end date. I feel like I'm never too busy for a 10-second dance break, even if it's a rushed one. Tip number 3, have a to-do list. And while this one may seem obvious, it's surprising how many people don't actually write down what they have to do and by when. And then they just forget that something needed to be done. Now, there are so many tools that you can use if you want a fancy way of recording this and also tracking how long something is going to take. So you could use a project management tool, but even a simple to-do list with what needs to be done by when is going to help you hugely. What that also helps with is being able to say no when your plate is too full at work. So if you tell your manager, I can't because I'm too busy, they're going to be wondering, well, what are you busy doing? However, let's say manager assigns you another project and you say, absolutely happy to work on that project. Right now I'm working on X, Y, Z. Which one would you like me to deprioritize so I can make time for that task? Automatically seeming more efficient and making sure that you don't overpromise, because then it's really hard to meet your deadlines. Tip number 4, block off uninterrupted time to work on the project. Now, when we're in so many Zoom calls and working remotely, it can be hard for people to see how busy you are and how much you've got on your plate. So actually blocking off times in your diary to work on something will dissuade most people, I mean, there are always those people who will book it in anyway, but it will dissuade most people from booking in and taking up that time. Just because you don't have another call doesn't mean that you always have to be available. And if you're planning your week and you've got a number of calls on one day, then blocking off the time that you're going to work on the other tasks can also help you see if realistically you have enough time to complete everything that's on your plate. Tip number 5 is to make use of small pockets of time. So yes, you can block off 1 or 2 hours in the morning where you're going to work on that project. But let's say you've got your food cooking and you know you've got to get that task done. Start doing 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes, don't let your food burn, but that 5 minutes can often just get you into the flow of things because you haven't dedicated that huge block of time and you might be in a more relaxed mindset. So if you're kind of dreading the task, make sure that you just start in those 5 minutes in the 1 hour when the washing's on, just to start working on it. And if you feel that you're getting into the flow, just go with that. We have the flexibility of having more control over our time when we're working from home. So go with that flow when you start working on a task that was previously difficult. So how do you deal when it's a particularly horrible task, like a 20,000 word dissertation or whatever other thing that you're working on that's really important to you and has to be done by a certain date? Well, it's actually a combination of all of those tips together. And I probably hadn't booked off uninterrupted time, but here's how I got through that dissertation. Well, I had a friend who's a neuroscientist and knew everything and could really understand my dissertation. So I had 2 days to go. And I said to her, I'm going to have a first draft ready by 12 o'clock. Would you be happy to review it? And she did. I'm very lucky. And that just meant that I knew that by 12 o'clock noon, I had to have the first draft and I had to send it over. And I outlined each of the different sections. Maybe I couldn't fill them all in perfectly by that first draft, but I knew what overall the outline could look like and I could share it with someone else who was then able to offer me very helpful ideas. I also blocked off everything. I didn't go to any of the lectures I had to go to. I cancelled the work that I was doing. I made no plans with friends. It was 2 days of torture, but it eventually got done. I feel like I should be honest. I didn't get a great grade on that dissertation, but it was 2 days of work for something that was expected to be done over a whole year. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad, but give yourself enough time and make sure you get started on your work early. So use your superpowers of pulling together all these 5 helpful tips to make sure that you never miss a deadline again. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you get access to new helpful videos on getting the most out of your career every Friday. Thanks so much for watching and go get your work done.